Welcome back to the Teach the Children podcast. I'm your host, Laura Battles, and today I have on our show an amazing guest. Mystie Winckler has joined us, and she is going to talk to us about simplifying our homemaking and simplifying our homeschool so that we can just focus on what matters, and that way we can teach our children and not be so overwhelmed and not be so full of just anxiety about trying to do all the things. So I am super excited that she's here. We had a great conversation, and I hope it blesses you as much as it blesses me, or blessed me. So here we go. Hey guys, and welcome to the podcast. Thanks, Mystie, for being on here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Right. Today I have on here Mystie Winckler, and she is going to talk to us, specifically moms, about just encouraging you. I don't know if there's any dads listening, but this is also encouragement for you too. A lot of these episodes are about how we can get resources to our kids, but this one's all about us moms, as parents, and how we just also need to be fed, and so we avoid that burnout. So welcome, Mystie. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
So my husband and I were both homeschooled in the 80s and 90s, and then homeschooled our own kids. We have 5 kids, and 3 have graduated from our homeschool. 2 are left, 1 in high school and 1 in middle school this fall. And so, yeah, we have been on both sides of the homeschool table.
Yeah. So you're a second generation homeschooler.
Yes.
Like, do you have more appreciation for your mom who homeschooled you now that you have done it?
For sure. Yes. Actually, my husband and I both were not sure about homeschooling at first.
Okay.
Because we were super young when we got married and started our family. And so we thought we knew better than our parents at that time, and that we would do it so much better by doing it differently.
Right.
And so we tried to start a school at that time with some other people that just never got off the ground.
Okay.
It was actually, I was just pregnant with our first at that time. So we said, well, that's fine. We'll just homeschool. But it was our plan B. And, so I checked out every book that the library had on homeschooling, and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so my husband and I had been talking about things we wished were different about our education when we were thinking about a school, and deciding we were going to homeschool shifted our conversations, where then we started talking about the things that we appreciated about being homeschooled. And we wanted to at least hold on to the things that were good, because there were lots of good things. We had been thinking more about what was different than we thought it should have been, which after we got to that same stage, we're like, well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe we were being too judgmental too early on. And so both of us agreed that the best thing about being homeschooled was having plenty of time and opportunity to read for our own interests. And that both of us remembered the most and learned the most, not from the textbooks that we had done for school, but in the reading that we had done on our own. And so we tried to really keep that, make sure that that was happening, and create an environment where that was normal, and that we can pass that on to our own children. So that became a real priority for our family.
Cool. So have your kids noticed, did you do the same thing with them then? So did you do a lot of reading with your kids, and have they benefited from reading? Have you talked to them since you've graduated 3, what they benefited most from?
Oh, sure. Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
I would say we built on what our parents did. We didn't do the exact same thing, but it's each generation. So I'm sure that our children next will build on what we had done and do it differently. Yeah. But take the good and add more.
Cool. Yeah, my husband and I are both public school kids, so this is all new to us. I mean, I was like, there's homeschool conventions, you can homeschool co-ops. What is all this? And I was like, my husband is even more like, you can do that? And I'm like, I think so. Well, we're just going to do it. And so
Yes. I think the benefit from being homeschooled was that most of our learning had happened outside of the classroom. And so we started from a place of that being normal. And we didn't assume that curriculum or grades and tests in a classroom is what learning means or how education happens. But we knew it comes from reading and thinking and talking and writing. And so that's what we focused on.
Okay.
And so it helped us think outside the box because our parents had set that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so any parents that are homeschooling now, I would say it's very difficult to break out of that box of like, what does school mean or what does learning mean?
Mm-hmm.
But your children are going to they're going to benefit from
Yes.
The changes that you are making, even if it's not, completely breaking the, outside of the box or doing,
Right.
There is no perfect, but we all try for the perfect.
Right.
But, our kids will maybe, if they homeschool, they will be second generation homeschoolers and do things differently.
Yeah.
But it will be based on what you gave them.
Yeah. That's what I try to do with my kids. I've read somewhere, I think it was in one of Sarah McKenzie's books, which, she's coming to maybe a convention here in the fall, close by. But she had said that even when her kids got older, she still read to them. And so we have never given up nighttime reading. I mean, we don't do it every night, but I know that my kids just enjoy sitting down and listening to whatever book we pull out and reading. A lot of them comes with our curriculum because it goes over the same stuff we use, but I don't blast through all the books in the school year. I leave some for the summer, and then we get to really get into those books in the summer. And I grew up public school, so going to the library is not that cool of a thing. My kids, you would think that we're going to Disneyland when I say, okay, today we're going to pack up our books and go to the library. And it is I'm like, whose kids are these? I mean, I love reading, but I have never jumped for joy. So I agree. I love the fact that homeschooling allows them to read all they want. And I let them pretty much read within a certain bounds, but whatever they want and whatever their interests are.
Yeah. Yeah. So that love of reading is huge.
Yeah. So you said you were homeschooled growing up. Do your siblings homeschool? Are you the only one?
Well, so actually I'm the oldest and we got started young. So and I'm the oldest of 7.
Okay.
Only 2 of my siblings have school age kids.
Oh, okay.
The rest, they're all younger. And so one doesn't of those, but yeah.
And what about your husband's family? Do any of them homeschool?
My husband has 2 sisters and both of them homeschool.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool that it still goes on. It still is being passed generation to generation. All right. So with that, and you said this influenced how you started your homeschool journey. How did you start Simply Convivial? How did that get all in there with all this going on? You're homeschooling. How did you have time to even start something else?
It started just from my own sanity, and it just started as a blog, actually before I was homeschooling. So blogs were brand new. There was no social media. The internet was young in the early 2000s. And my dad was always kind of an early adopter on tech stuff. And when I think I was 12 and my brother was 10, when my dad came home from work one day with a big printout, big stack of papers, the old printers where all the pages were connected with the little
the
dot matrix.
Yes.
Dot matrix paper. It was a whole big stack of all connected, unroll.
I haven't thought of that in forever. Oh my goodness. Taking me back.
Lots of people listening has probably never experienced it, but there was this big stack of paper and he said,
oh my gosh,
this is HTML code. if you learn it, you can make web pages. And so my brother and I just read the stack of papers and started making websites. I mean, the internet was almost nothing at that. Yeah. Most people didn't even know, like some people had AOL.
Yes.
But yeah, so we had web pages.
Okay.
Just self-hosted, because that's the way my I was DIY, just try things.
Okay.
And so partly it was that, like, just try things. And if things are possible, it's an attitude of, oh, I could try that. No big deal. I can try it. Yeah. And so blogs were a thing. I said, oh, well, I like to write, but I don't write just for myself. I don't write unless there's like a publish. I can hit publish. Even if no one reads it, you know, it's out there. Yeah. I am beginning a collection. And so it was just a mom blog. Okay. And I was kind of processing through my life and what I was learning as I was reading all those homeschool books and beginning my life as a homemaker and a mother and juggling all those things. And, you know, I was trying to figure out how to do things well and how to learn and grow and keep trying. And so as I was learning things, I was sharing them. And as I had struggles through things, I was sharing what I was learning. And I started reading other people's blogs. And one of the main ones was Cindy Rollins. Okay. And she had 9 kids. And her youngest was just a year older than my oldest. Okay. So she was, you know, that just right ahead of me, mom. Yes. But she was, I think at that time, she was about to have a graduate. So she had this whole span right above where I was at. So I read every single word that she put out there. Okay. And she started doing blog book clubs. Oh. And so I did that. And then I made other internet friends, because this is how we did social media before social media existed. We read each other's blogs and commented on them.
Yes. Yep.
And so, you know, that's what I was doing. And then as things developed, I just said, oh, I could try that. I could try that. And the struggles, I thought going into homemaking and homeschooling as the homeschooled oldest daughter of 7 kids, it was going to be a piece of cake.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And it was not. Yeah. And partly I couldn't even figure out why it wasn't. And I went through many phases, including a phase where I decided I'm the only person who cares. So one solution would be to stop caring about how the house is kept and everything. Okay. So I went through my slob phase, and then I went through my conviction phase about those life decisions. And then the learning how to climb out of the hole that I had pushed myself into. And so I was writing all through that whole process and finding lots of other women were relating and sharing their stories. And so that just became my topic. And before you knew it, I had an ebook and then more blogs and then a podcast and a membership with courses now at this point.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. That is encouragement to moms out there that they can do something very simple to get going. And there are also other moms out there going through the same thing as them. Like they are not alone. It might take a little bit of digging to find other moms, but we're out there and we all struggle. I would say I struggle with the homekeeping too, you know, as a busy mom. And so I swing between the house being immaculate and then my definition of dirty. And I have a husband who pulls me back and on both sides. And so, you know, God gives us, I'm glad God gives us guys like that who are like, the house is fine. Go play with the kids, or maybe stop playing with the kids and go do a load of laundry because we have been wearing the same underwear for 4 days. Yeah. So what are some simple ways moms and dads can simplify their lives, can really just sort of weed through things and just go to what matters? How can we take some steps in that direction?
Yeah, I think when we're suffering from overwhelm, which we all do at different points, I think it's often tied to perfectionism. They go together. Perfectionism leads us to overwhelm. And we often don't even recognize that we have perfectionist tendencies, that we have unrealistic expectations, but we probably do. One thing that perfectionism can look like is the tendency to say, well, I'm not going to get started unless I know how it's going to end, unless I know I can finish it. And there's some definition of finished that's like completely done. But like the laundry and the dishes are never going to be completely done.
Right.
But if we think that if we think that our job is to get it completely done, that's when the kids getting dirty clothes again or having another meal with more dishes feels like defeat and feels discouraging. It's because we have this unstated, unrecognized goal or assumption or standard that it's going to be finished. And then having to redo it is some kind of problem or something that needs a solution when it's actually just a part of our life.
Yeah.
We're taking care of our people and life. And so the fact that there is food that needs to be made and then cleaned up after, and new clothes that need to be purchased or moved out of storage or changed for the seasons or laundered again is all just a part of caretaking because there's life in our house.
Yes.
And we can choose to recognize the life that's happening and enjoy that. Or we can think that we're supposed to be getting to the end of all of those tasks and just be defeated and discouraged all the time.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. That's good. Because that's how I feel a lot. You know, you wake up every morning, you cook breakfast, and then you cook lunch, you cook dinner, and then you clean up, and then you're prepping for the next day, and it gets monotonous. It gets to the point where you're like, and sometimes your kids don't say thank you. I mean, most of the time mine don't, unless someone prompts them. But that is overwhelming. So that's a good reminder. Thank you for that. That's good for me today. Huh. I was like, you're talking to me. Because I mean, when you've done 3,000 loads of laundry too, on top of everything else, you're just like, when is it ever going to finish? When are these kids ever going to be done? And they just never are.
Nope. Well, actually, I would say I have 3 graduates now, and eventually they do take their messes and their laundry and their food elsewhere.
But then do you like want them back home with all the food and the laundry, and then you're wishing they were back at home again?
Actually, I really love having grown-ups as children. It's great.
And I heard you have a grandbaby?
I do.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, I'm a grandma. So.
Wow. How old is the baby?
She's about a year old.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Ah, that's a whole nother world, like a whole nother stage of life.
It is. It's a level up.
Yeah. Oh, how exciting. It's cool. So how does having a simpler life help with homeschooling and being a non-burned out mom? Like, how can we take those simple things and incorporate them so we don't burn out? So things are, because if we're calm, our kids are calmer. And if we're hyped up, our kids are hyped up because they just feel those emotions. Oh, so how can we is there a way that we can work that in daily? Do you have a daily routine with your kids when you homeschool that keeps everybody calm and level?
Well, I think one thing I learned as I was trying to figure this all out when, I had 5 kids all school age and there's so much happening all the time, is I kept, reading all the stuff out there, I was trying to make life easy. And I defined a simple life as an easy life. Oh. So unless it was easy and frictionless and happy, at least most of the time, and by happy, like no one's fighting ever and everyone's doing all their work on time without me even telling them what to do. Like it was an unrealistic standard. Yeah. Not the way people function. But that was what I thought I was supposed to be achieving. And one way you can try to achieve that easy, frictionless life is to remove all the difficult things. And that's actually just removing life.
Yeah.
And it's not what we are called to do.
Mm-hmm.
And God works in us in the difficult things. So if we avoid or remove the challenges and the struggles that God has placed us in, we're actually trying to avoid his work in our lives. And so what I came to learn was that simple means you have a single aim and purpose that everything ties to. So you're not trying to accomplish all these million unrelated things so you're pulled in a million directions and distracted all the time. But instead you have one aim and lots of different ways to work toward that aim. So it's like a one-piece life. Everything relates. There's not lots of different things going on. There's really just one life. And so it's more important that we are in fellowship than the math lesson gets done. But that doesn't mean that we cut the math lesson and don't do it. It means that struggle between being in fellowship and getting the math lesson done is where God is working in both me and my children, and where I'm supposed to be working with my children, so that we can get to a point where we can have both. Okay. So the hard lesson in math, that's where the growth and maturing and sanctification is happening. And when we recognize that it all has meaning and purpose, we're less stressed out about it, because we aren't thinking that we're supposed to have a life that has no friction. Instead, no, my job is to myself work through tension and struggle and sin, and also to teach my children that and show my children that. So even if we're having this argument or this, I hate math moment.
Right.
Right there, that's the lesson. And that's where God's at work. And so it doesn't have to stress me out, because it's a part of the purpose. The purpose is happening in that moment. It's not a sign that I'm failing. It's just the job in front of me.
Yeah. You definitely shouldn't cut out math either. So if you say, well, math is difficult for me and my son and I, or my daughter and I, let's just cut out math. That's
right.
Not necessarily the best solution either. I mean, they need to learn math, but that perseverance that you're teaching them, especially if you walk through it with them, you can show them, this is how we can get through these tough things together. And then you're connecting. And then later in life, they can remember, hey, mom was always there helping me through these things.
Yes. Yes. And more, especially with adult children now, I can see that having worked through difficulties and tensions and arguments and hard things prepared them to become adults and enter the world responsible and ready. Cool. Whereas if we think that our job as moms is to make things always easy and fun, then we're actually keeping them immature.
Yeah.
Because learning to work through things is how you become an adult. And so that it really is just as important a part of their education.
Cool. Yeah. I tell my kids that all the time. They're always like, this karate lesson is so tough, Mom. And I'm like,
good.
Yes, it is tough, and you will learn from it. Do you think I do karate too? So I'm always like, do you think Mom went out the first time to karate lesson and she just knew exactly what to do? I'm like, I failed the first couple of times and I was just as nervous as you were. Just because I'm an adult and I smiled through the whole lesson didn't mean on the inside I was turning over and I was not full of anxiety. And they're like, you were? And I'm like, yeah, but I did it. And I go back, and you can do these things too. So
yep,
that's cool.
Exactly.
And I like how you can say define. That's something that all of us moms can do. Define what we say is simple. It's simple doesn't equal easy, but if we know what our definition is, we can go towards that definition.
Yeah. And if you think, so actually the definition of simple is single. So like in theology, there's a doctrine of the simplicity of God, which means all of God's parts make the whole. They aren't separate. They're all, you can't have any of the one without the other. So it means basically the oneness of God. And so it's the same thing with our life, where a simple life is a life that has one aim, one purpose, which, you know, is to glorify God and enjoy him forever.
Yes.
That's an integrative purpose that lets everything connect to it. And it lets us know, well, is this a problem or not? Well, in this, can I glorify God and enjoy him forever? Oh, I can? Then this is a part of my simple life.
Yeah. Cool. That's a great way to look at it too. You know, to say simplified does not equal easy. It equals oneness. So how can I get oneness in this house? Is this, you know, make sure you get the big topics, the math, the reading, the fellowship, but some of those other things, it helps you weed out the yeses and the nos by knowing what you know, what your family's aim is. What does your simplified home look like, or your, you know, definition? Then if it doesn't fit into that, it's really easy to say no to, okay, my kid wants to do this activity. Well, does it fit into any of those things? Nope. Then it's out.
Yeah.
And it
because we all also are finite. We can't do everything.
Right.
And so also just recognizing that that's not possible, but that's not what we're being called to do either. So it's not a problem that you can't do everything.
Yes. I think, like, I grew up and my parents had me in everything. And it was, you know, it's good and it's bad. You know, at the time I have learned a lot of different things. I've learned soccer and I've learned, you know, music to some degree and all these different things. But I just want my kids to not be so stretched thin and to have us be back as a family. And that's no knock on what I grew up as. I just like our simplified message at our house is like family first. So if we can't do it as a family, we don't really do a lot of extra things. And people are always like, well, what about them not learning this or that? And I'm like, they also have a whole life in front of them. Yeah. You know, I'm 41. I just learned karate. So what's to say that they can't at 41 learn to fly a plane or learn to play on a soccer team or any of those things, you know? So cool. So how do you incorporate Jesus and the Bible into your homeschool? Do you guys have a set aside time for that?
Yeah, we always did start our homeschool day with, I called it morning time because that's what my mentor, Cindy Rollins, called it.
Yep.
And so we would do singing and prayer and catechism and Bible memory. We'd also memorize poetry and do other things. But, you know, for the most part, that was usually the start of our homeschool day. And other than that, I think just always, you know, being focused on Christ in day-to-day living doesn't mean adding a Bible verse on top of everything, but it means in how you do everything, how you go about everything, glorifying God and seeing like the world he made is his. So like math works because God made it.
Yes.
Like God is logical and mathematical, and math only works because of God. So we can learn math, and that's actually teaching us about God, even if we don't draw those direct lines every lesson or anything. All of God's world speaks of him. And so we can learn anything and everything under the Lordship of Christ.
Cool. And I like how you mentioned morning times or morning. You called it, what did you call it? Morning basket?
Morning bat. It's the same thing as morning basket. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great start to the day. And it also helps, you know, not to have us burn out as moms. Because if you can get more things accomplished with all your kids all at once, instead of having to do, you know, each one individually, because that's sort of what we do. We start with in the morning with Bible time, a catechism, and history all together. And so my youngest is a little bit behind on history, not behind, but behind the older two on history. So I'll read his book. Well, the other two are like drawing or maybe doing something. And then I'll read their books and he's allowed to draw or do whatever. But as that time as a family together, especially I notice the difference in the summer. Like when we don't have it every single day, I just notice we're all just a little bit more off doing our own thing. But during the school year, the kids know at 9, we start at the table, and it just sort of centers us and our homeschool. And it helps me not to burn out, because then I'm not thinking about, oh my goodness, I have to sit down and do a Bible memory verse with each kid. We all do the same ones.
Yeah.
And they all hear the same catechisms. And it just creates that peace in the house and that routine that they know it's every day is going to be the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also think it is one of those just homeschool routines that helps us break out of that classroom and test-taking model of education and see that learning is just living life. Like morning time, reading books together, talking about them, memorizing things with other people is something you could do your whole life. It translates into even personal devotions or family devotions or a book club. It's kind of that same concept. And so doing that in your homeschool makes it a part of just life.
Yeah.
Rather than school. That's like, oh, it's this separate place, separate time.
Right.
And I think that helps continue that attitude and expectation for, well, this is just something people do. Yeah.
And it's good that they teach them young. So like I'm teaching my kids. So this year, next in the fall, I'll finally have a middle schooler. But before that, I'm teaching them young, like how I sort of start my day. I wake up before the kids. I do a Bible reading by myself. And sometimes they see me do that, but it's early. They know that every day we're going to do all these things together. So it's sort of is getting them prepped for when they get older and they step out on their own. Oh, well, we used to do Bible reading in the morning, and it just sort of helps set the day right. Doesn't mean that everything's going to go perfect in the day. There's not going to be all these other catastrophes that are going to happen. It just sort of sets you in the right spot to focus on God first, and then let him. And as my kids have gotten older, I let them, take over prayer time. So they each have a day of the week that they can pray. And the littlest sometimes he just does our food prayer. And I'm like, wait, we're not eating. And he's like, oh, oops, sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. God's okay with it. But, they get to pick like where they sit. Sometimes it's at the table, sometimes at the couch. Sometimes they like to let the dog join in. And so it's just all those like just being a family. And I enjoy that, getting to see them in their faces every day, just get to learn things.
It is. It's great.
And it does help with burnout. I mean, it really just helps us moms, again, simplify our lives and not burn out.
When you put those things that matter most in a place and you're doing them together. And my husband always told me, like, morning time and math. Do those two things, and it just like the others, it doesn't. That is what matters the most. So do those first.
It's funny. I've been talking to a lot of people about like their school and not school, but their homeschool and their routines. And they're like morning time and math. And I'm like,
yep,
it's very consistent across the board. Like if anybody hears anything today, morning time, math, nothing else really matters. They'll pick it up. And it's funny because I just got done. Are you guys Idaho or Washington?
Well, we raised our kids in the Tri-Cities, and I grew up in the Tri-Cities, but then we moved to Moscow, Idaho in 2022. So we've been here about 3.5 years.
Okay. So it's been a recent move. Yeah. So you know about the testing requirement in Washington.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we just got done with ours, and I'm always hesitant to open the paper, but I do just to see like where the holes were at. Like, where do I need to focus on next year? But the thing that always surprises me is we don't do a ton of social studies. I read living books for history, so it's not history in that sense, but they always do fine on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm very surprised by it because I'm like, we really drill math. We really drill some of the other things. Obviously they don't test on Jesus, but I'm like, they would ace, the basic Jesus questions on there. If whatever the state would put on there. But I just am surprised because when you go to social studies, I'm always thinking they're going to bomb it because we don't touch on some of those things, and they do fine because it's just life. And when they and I tell them things, that's this, that's this. Oh, okay. And then they test on it and they're like, oh, I know what that is. You didn't have to do a 4-week study on that. And I'm like, oh, good. Something else. I can just check out the window, stress out the door.
Yes. I always found like the things that the tests said were their weaknesses. It was like, I knew that already.
Yeah. And that's
And
this year.
we're working on it.
Yes. And that's the 2 other subjects that I knew we didn't hit much this year that we're sort of hitting over the summer. And they tested low on that. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? We'll get to it. And if not, I'm going to set them up with the tools that they know that can help them, do it. And the way the world is working anyways, they're going to have a computer in front of them at all times. So some of it, I'm like, yeah, okay. So what are some ways to keep out? So we're talking about busy moms. I think we're all busy. So what are some ways you keep from burning out since you are busy? You have grandkids now. You have a business that you're running. I don't know if you're doing any other conferences this year until maybe the fall. But what are some things that you do every day that just help you stay grounded and stay from keeping too busy?
Well, time in the Word and prayer for sure. And also, even with older kids, we still, most of the time, like 80% of the time, have a family dinner. Not all the kids are at every one. I mean, obviously, since I have 2 moved out, but even the kids that are in our house, they have jobs, but we still have a family dinner for whoever is there. And I keep my calendar up to date.
Okay.
And look at my like having a calendar, looking at it. That's like my top thing I have to stay on top of.
Yeah.
And then really it's just, I think knowing your priorities helps you react appropriately, because life, like planning and doing all the things, you can't do all the things.
Right.
And planning and being organized doesn't mean correctly predicting how life is going to happen. And sometimes we think that, okay, if I plan well and if I get organized, then nothing unexpected is going to happen. And I'm going to completely achieve all the tasks that I wrote down. I was like, no, I just don't expect to get all my things done. And I don't expect life to go the way I predicted in my plan. But I did make a plan, so I know what is potentially possible and what just is not, what's totally impossible. And I'm okay with adapting and iterating and doing what I can, keeping my priorities in order so that I can make good decisions on the fly. There's always going to be making decisions on the fly. So it's not about getting everything so planned out that you don't do that anymore. It's actually making a plan and knowing your priorities so that when you operate on the fly, you can get better and better at doing that.
Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah. And so sometimes like operating on the fly and responding to things as they come can feel like being pulled in a million directions and being scattered and stressed. But the stress response is often a habit. And we build that habit when we expect things to go the way we wanted them to go or the way we thought they would go. And so we don't then adapt and change our direction or focus and let things go and shift our focus. But it's a skill that when we realize that's the skill that we need to learn and cultivate, then, the things changing and the different needs coming up, that means this has to go and we're going to go do this now is just not, it doesn't have to be stressful.
Yeah. I've really learned to say, if people ask me to do something and I either don't have my calendar in front of me or I haven't talked to my husband about it, I'm like, I'm just going to talk to my husband first, or can I get back to you on that? Because it just really helps put up that first initial, boundary around like myself and my calendar. And even if I know my husband is okay with it, I still want to be like, let's run through this scenario again. If I were to say yes to this, what would I say? Or if I do say no, what is the ramifications for that? So just saying those, can I get back to you in a day? Can I get back to you in a week? And I think most of the time people respect that, but that helps keep that busyness or that, feeling like you're being pulled 5,000 different directions. And sometimes at home, I just turn my phone on silent and ignore it.
Oh yeah.
That helps too.
That pressure of feeling like you have to respond to everyone or every opportunity right away.
Yes.
Is, it's not true.
It is, very much.
And it makes you stressed.
Yes.
So you can, people can wait.
Yes.
And you can be reasonable and, mature and responsible instead of instant.
Yes.
But we're in an instant culture right now. And so it takes work and intention to just be calm and reasonable.
Yeah. It's funny because my oldest even says that he'll hear my phone bing a couple of times. There's, I have busier days of the week, and some of those days, it bugs him. He's like, Mom, your phone is binging. You need to answer it. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I'm cooking lunch right now, or I'm, doing school with you guys, or I just don't feel like answering the 15 text messages that have come through. And he's like, but won't they get mad? And I'm like, it's okay. I don't control their feelings.
That's right.
Focusing right here on what's here. And there are other times though that I'm like, I do need to answer this, and they're good with it. But I think just setting those boundaries, even an hour a day, turn your phone on quiet and just walk away, just creates so much peace and calmness in the house.
For sure. Yeah. And those situations are training your kids too, and a picture of what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't, like you said, it's instant gratification all the time now. So it's like, sometimes it's just nice to let them be like, nope, we can all step away and not have it. Well, what is one thing, I'll start wrapping this up. What is one thing you would tell like a newbie Mystie Winckler to homeschooling now that you are on this side of things? What would you go back and say? What would you tell her?
Let's see. What I needed to be told, I think when I got started, was that the 12-year plan that I made when my oldest was 4 years old, that was a waste of time. You don't have to know exactly what you're going to do every step of the way, the whole way through, to get started and even to do a good job all the way through.
Yes.
And you really can't, because you as the mom are going to be learning so much alongside your kids.
Yes.
Through what you're reading. Like that's the best thing about homeschooling actually is that mom gets to be educated again.
Yes. Agreed.
And then you'll learn about your kids, and you'll learn about your family, and you'll learn things that are possible. And so just make a plan for the next year, knowing those priorities and those family culture things that you want. And say, well, we don't have to achieve that overnight, but instead, what would be some small steps moving toward that? And you can build a full, well-lived life one step at a time. I did way too many whole life makeovers when I was a young mom. Like, okay, never mind. That wasn't working. Scrap everything, make a whole new plan, and I'll redo everything. And it's like, just say, well, what's one thing that we could do a little bit better? And that adds up to a lot. Just like the memory verses in morning time, one verse or one passage for 6 weeks, and then you add another one in a couple of years. Yeah. You have so many.
Correct.
That you can't review them all.
Right. But the cool thing with that is that they're planted in your kids' heart. So even if, they don't remember the whole thing, they'll remember tidbits of them here and there. And it comes out in the randomest spots and at the randomest times. Yes. And you're like, oh, did I teach you that? And they're like, yeah, Mom. And I'm like, okay.
Yes. And our attitude is what is teaching our kids
Mm-hmm.
the most effectively.
Yeah.
So more than curriculum, more than anything else that we're doing, the way we're doing it is always teaching our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Is there anything else you would like to tell any of us before we wrap it up?
Well, I also have a podcast
Yes.
called Simply Convivial, and that they're really short episodes, just a little quick pep talks. And I have a book called The Convivial Homeschool, Gospel Encouragement for Keeping Your Sanity While Living and Learning Alongside Your Kids.
Yeah.
It's not really a devotional, but it's kind of set up like a devotional with really short themed readings that help you see how God can be working even in your hard days.
Cool.
So,
And they can find that at your website?
yes, simplyconvivial.com.
Okay. And I saw that you might have been on Instagram. Are you on there anymore?
I am not. Actually, I got off Instagram 5 years ago. So my account and name is still there. So there's a link there.
Yes.
But I'm not on it.
And are you not Facebook either,
awesome.
right?
Nope, not on Facebook.
Nice. Nice.
It's wonderful.
Oh my goodness. I have a few friends that do that, and I just think, oh, that seems so like something I really want to
do. No regrets.
Yeah. And I was talking to a friend last night about how you're coming on the podcast today, and she's like, I just finished her book, and she's like, and now I feel like I'm just done with this big conversation with my friend, and I'm really sad. And I'm like, oh, and she's like, I just want to go back and just like talk to her again. So your book is very well received, and I think at the convention you were busy the whole time. You had lots of moms up talking to you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I always love that opportunity.
Yeah, people were like, is she coming back? Is she coming this year? And I was like, yes, she is. So, well, we hope that you can come back in 2026. It's awesome. I didn't realize you had just moved out of the Tri-Cities not that long ago.
Yeah, the Tri-Cities is my hometown.
Nice.
Yeah, we still go back quite a bit since all my family is still there. Yep.
Yeah, and then I was talking to Bonet Music Academy, and I didn't realize your son worked for them too. So it's like a small world. Was that the son at the convention is the one who was working with him?
No, actually, my assistant son is my teenage son. But it's my second son who's 20. Teaches piano with Bonet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, hey, that last name is not very common. He's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's a small world. It's a cool world, but it
is. It's very fun.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. Again, guys, you can get to her book and her podcast through simplyconvivial.com. I would really encourage you guys to go out and listen and read her books. They are just amazing. They have blessed me. And so that's why I want to get her on this podcast so you guys can be blessed also. You can find Teach the Children on Facebook or Instagram. I'm on there. Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, all under Teach the Children, TC. And if you like today's episode, like it, subscribe to it, follow it, share it. That's the best way you can get out there to all the other podcasts and all those algorithms that I know nothing about, but they are out there. And, and comment. If you can comment, I guess that's the new thing we have to do is comment on things. So if you have a positive comment, please comment. If you have a negative comment, then just keep it to yourself. But thank you so much for coming on. I am so glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura.
All right. See you next time.